These are going to be your notes on vertex form. So before we did standard form, which was when you had ax squared plus bx plus c. This is going to be your notes on standard form. So it's just a different way of writing a quadratic. You have three different parts that are super important in this form: a, h, and k. So let's start with a. A is going to tell you quite a bit about the quadratic, about the parabola. So you probably already know that if it's a positive A, it's going to open up like a smile. If it's a negative A, it's going to open down like a frown. So what this does here is no different than what this one did in standard form. Those are both the same pieces of information. But then here you've got different letters. So before we had B and C, now we have H and K. So H and K have a lot to do with what the vertex is. Remember, that's the point at which the parabola starts to make a turn. So what we want to know is what's the X value and what's the Y value. And these actually tell you that information. So here in vertex form on the H, we only want to look at the letter H or the number that's in that place, not necessarily the minus sign, because this right here is going to represent your X value. And then your K is going to represent your Y value in your vertex. So basically your vertex is going to be written whatever the H number is, comma, whatever the K number is. That's going to be your vertex. So what we're going to do on these three down below, sorry, I'm trying to adjust my camera to focus, is we're going to first identify the vertex. Now keep in mind that H comes after a minus. So when situations like this happen where you have a plus, that means that there was a sign change. The only time that you can make a sign change is if it mathematically makes sense. So for instance, if I had minus a negative number, I could take these two and make them a plus. That's exactly what happened here. It used to be minus a negative 4. So my H is actually negative 4. And then my K came after a plus sign. Now here I have a minus sign. So if I put a plus sign right here, that means my K value is negative 2. So practice on this one. This is my H, this is my K, but only after a minus and only after a plus. So the K looks good, it's got plus 2. The H over here, not so much. So the only way that we got that plus sign there is if we had minus a negative 3. So my H is actually negative 3, and then my K is 2. That's my vertex. Now again, you can always find these vertexes by graphing them in your calculator. So if you have a hard time remembering that process, you can always take the entire equation, plug it into your calculator, like so, and hit graph, and then you can take a peek at where that vertex is. So it would be negative number, negative number. So if the numbers you got HK, you just have a hard time with the signs, you can always graph and then just take a peek. And that will help you out with the positive, negative values. So on C, and I notice again, it switched up on us. So it's a negative 5 and a positive 2. That's my vertex. You're also going to have to know how to convert from this form to standard form. So remember, standard form is your ax squared plus bx plus c. So now I'm going to take my vertex form equation here. And I'm going to convert it to standard form. When you're doing this, you always want to remember what the square means. So the square means you're actually multiplying the x plus 4 times the x plus 4. Then you have minus 2. Now go back to your polynomial rules when you're multiplying. What's the skill you use when it's multiplying two polynomials? That skill is box method. So you can, and it's basically length times width. That's the version of box method you're going to be using. Sometimes with box method, we have to put stuff on the inside. So you have to remember when it's okay to put stuff on the inside first and when you have to do things on the outside. So the way I remember it is if it's multiplication, I'm going to want to do length times width. That helps me remember how to do multiplication. So then I'm going to go ahead and box method. Combine like terms. So that means this times that is x squared plus 8x plus 16. And then I bring down my minus 2. Now all I have to do is combine these two because those are alike. X squared plus 8x plus 14. And there's my standard form. So trying it with b, here's my equation. I have to first remember that when I square something, it's that set times itself. Then I'm going to go ahead and box method that. So I'm going to come off to the side here and do my x plus 3, length times width. I go ahead and multiply these two in my box and then combine like terms. So x squared plus 6x plus 9, and then I'm going to bring down. So I'm going to bring down my negative 3 and put this back in parentheses because this was being multiplied to that setup. So now I'm going to multiply it to everything here. And then bring down my positive 2. So first I spread this out to where it's x plus 3, x plus 3. I did the box method off on the side for it. Put it in parentheses so that way I could distribute that term that was on the outside of it. So I distribute that, and now all I have to do is combine like terms. So this stuff gets brought down, and then this combined is negative 25. That's my standard form. So we'll try it for C. Here's the equation from up here. So first, spread out your square. And then for multiplying polynomials, I do the box method. Length times width. And then I put what it equals right here. So I got x squared, 10x, 25. Bring down, bring down. So now I'm looking at a new problem here. The number on the outside of the parentheses is going to get distributed. And distributing means multiplying. Now I have a new problem here, and all I have to do is combine like terms. And that's how you convert to standard form. Now, we're going to be writing the quadratic function in vertex form. Let's go ahead and write what our vertex form is up at the top of this paper. So I've got a times x minus h squared plus k. So that's my vertex form equation. My a is 2. And if it says the vertex is negative 2, 3, then my h is negative 2 and my k is 3. Because remember, hk is vertex. hk. So I've got A times x minus h squared plus k. If you write it out like this with those letters missing, then all you have to do is fill in the blanks. So I've got 2, -2, 3. And the reason why I like to do that is because people always mess up right here. So they'll end up putting x minus 2, but really it's minus a negative. So you got to be super careful with that. I like to make it a fill in the blank. Put the x minus and then a blank. That'll help. And now we're going to convert. So this becomes a plus. First, spread these out. Why don't you go ahead and pause? I want you to try to do this one on your own. Hopefully you were able to do that. So let's see what you got. Length times width. Square, 2x, 2x, 4. So I get x squared. This combines right here. Plus 4x plus 4. Bring down the 2, bring down the 3. So then at this point, hopefully you distributed. You get 2x squared plus 8x plus 8 plus 3. Combine like terms. 2x squared plus 8x, 8, 9, 10, 11 plus 11. So now you're going to try this one. Hit pause, give that one a go. All right, let's go to example 2. Make sure after you've completed these, you're going to turn this into the assignment. So you'll be taking a picture of this back so that way your teacher can check your work on these 3. All right, so example 2. Vertex, remember, is written HK. And then one of the points on the parabola is 3, -12. There are actually a few ways to approach this problem. I will first show you how to find A without needing a third point. And then I'll show you how to use your calculator if you can find a third point. So A is the only thing that we're missing. So if you think about vertex form, and I'm going to use like the very bottom of this paper. So if you think about vertex form, you've got A times x minus h squared plus k. I know that h is 1, k is -4. So those I could plug in. The only thing I don't know is this. The best way to find that is to take the point that you're given, 3, -12, xy, and plug it into the xy. Because if you have these numbers, 3, -12, then literally the only letter you're missing out of the whole thing is this. So all you have to do is solve for A. So you just start walking through the problem like you normally would. You've got this square here, but first let's do parentheses. So we got 3 - 1, 2, bring down. Then you got 2 squared, which is 4. So let me rewrite that part right here. There's not enough room on this paper. Okay, so I just rewrote this right here. So now I still need to get A by itself. So I don't know, let's add 4 because we could move that number over here. The goal is to try to get every number away from A. And you always have to save the one that's attached for last. So I've moved everything else that I possibly could. And then I'm going to get A by itself. So -12 plus 4, 8, -8. Bring down. Now all I have to do is get rid of this 4. Currently, it's being multiplied to the A. So if I just divide it off, I can find my A. So this is one way that you can find that A term, so that way you can write the entire vertex form without missing anything. X minus H plus your K, and now you have your vertex form. So what I did was I plugged in first my H and my K, and then I took that other point, 3, -12, and I plugged it into the XY. And then I solved. So I did PEMDAS basically. Parentheses, bring down. Exponent, bring down. And at this point, I started to get A by itself. So this is one way to get your A term. If you have a calculator and you can find a third point, that may be your method. So if I make a little table here, and I've got the vertex of 1, -4, I'm going to put it in the middle because essentially that's what a vertex is. And then I've got 3, -12. All I need to do is find the reflection point. So I want to take you back to when we did this equation right here. If I were to look in my table, it would actually be pretty easy to find the reflection point or the vertex. I know that -4, -2 would be my vertex because of this right here. See how it almost creates a parabola on its own. So here's your middle, and then around it is the same. Around that is the same. I bet if I go up one more, around that would be the same. It's like a bunch of parabolas in the table. So what I want to do is create that here. So I want this to, I want this right here to duplicate. So think about how far it is from 1 to 3 up 2. So all you have to do is go back 2 and you'll know your other point. Once you have 3 points, then you can go to stat edit and type them in. -12, -4, -12. And then you can just calculate, number 5, your A value that way. So if you can find that reflection point, it's got to be the same around the vertex, then you can stat edit. Those are your 2 options. Now let's convert this to standard form. So first I know that I want to take my square and box method that. So I have x minus 1, x minus 1. Let's get a box method in there. X squared, -1x, -1x, +1. Combine like terms. That's what I got out of my box method. That's what I did with the square. Bring down, distribute, which means multiply. Bring down, and then just keep working through. So combine like terms. And there's your standard form. So you're going to give this one a try. Now remember, you've got a couple of options. If you have a calculator, you can go for that third symmetrical point and stat edit, or you can follow the process of plugging in that other point and plugging in your vertex and then solving for A. Either one of those options will work. This works really well if you don't have a calculator. So do the U-try, and then we'll move on to example 3. All right, so hopefully you did that U-try. It's a lot easier to do the U-tries right after the example than waiting until the end to do all 3. So just keep that in mind. Always hit pause after the example and do the try before moving on. All right, so here we're going to write in standard form. Standard form, I'm going to pull from my calculator. So all I need here are 3 points. My vertex, -1,8, and then a left point, -2,6, and a right point. 0.06. Standard form I can pull directly out of this calculator. So I'm going to hit stat edit. Oh, first let's clear this out. Second plus 712. Stat edit. Type everything in. And then stat calc number 5. My A is -2, so -2x squared. My B is -4, so -4x. And my C is 6, which I could have told you that because it crosses at 6. I also could have told you that the A was negative because it's a frown. So now I'm going to work AHK. This is my vertex, -1, 8. So my H is -1, my K is 8. My A, I already know is -2. So now I can write this in vertex form. My A is -2, x minus -1. So yes, you can combine these and make it a plus, squared, plus my K. So now you'll try this one. Once you have finished all 3, make sure you take a picture of it and turn it in.